the opening surge of life in motion. Across the endless grasslands of East Africa, a tremor rises not from the earth, but from millions of hooves beating in unison. A tide of life, dark and shifting like a living storm front, begins to move. Nearly 5 million wildebeests spill across the Serengeti in a rolling wave of migration, pushing north toward the Masai Mara in search of the promise carried by distant rains. To the east, 5 million white-eared kob drift across the vast plains linking South Sudan with Ethiopia, their pale coats glimmering under the sun like a river of ivory in motion. And on the horizon, 20,000 plains zebras set out on their own 1,000-kilometer odyssey, leaving the Chobe River behind as they advance toward the shimmering salt pans that lie waiting in the desert's heart. These are the great migrations of the savannah, some legendary, others hidden in remote corners where few eyes ever witness them. Yet all of them pulse with the same ancient instinct, movement as survival, motion as the rhythm that keeps Africa's wild kingdom alive. From the iconic routes carved by generations to the secret passages rarely captured on camera, the continent's migrations form an eternal cycle, one that binds predator and prey, rain and dust, life and death, into a single, unbroken story of endurance. Before the journey begins, before we follow these migrations into the heart of the wild, a moment of stillness lingers, an invitation to connect. Across continents, from cities to remote villages, viewers gather to witness a story shaped by wind, water, and instinct. Let us know where in the world you are watching from. Every voice becomes part of this shared path through the untamed. Now, with the plains awakening beneath the first hints of rain, we step forward into the traces left by countless hooves and wings. What awaits is not merely movement, but survival written across the land, the hidden migrations of a relentless, unconquered savannah. The first breath of renewal. The rains arrive as a soft whisper across the plains, and suddenly the earth seems to breathe again. Parched grasses lift their heads, drawing color from the sky, and the vast savannah shifts from brittle gold to a trembling green. With this renewal comes a call older than memory itself. Elephants begin leaving the withered grounds they endured through the dry months, marching toward distant water before the heat tightens its grip once more. Herds of antelope rise as one, stepping into journeys that span hundreds of kilometers. In the narrow passages between hills, lions wait silent, patient, measuring the pulse of the land. Behind the great herds, spotted hyenas glide through the grass, shadows moving with deliberate calm. They watch for the straggler, the hesitant, the young any creature caught between exhaustion and instinct. Above them all, the endless plains thrum with motion. Every hoofbeat, every leap, every breath becomes part of a rhythm that has shaped Africa for millennia. Here, movement is not a choice. It is survival, written into every life that depends on the shifting seasons. The ancient mysteries of migrating birds. Have you ever wondered where the small birds that sing on rooftops in spring disappear to when the summer heat arrives? For centuries, this simple question baffled the greatest minds of the ancient world. In Greece, Aristotle believed that the familiar red-breasted robin transformed into an entirely different bird when the seasons changed. Medieval Europe spun even stranger tales, stories of barnacle geese said to hatch from driftwood, or to grow from barnacles clinging to the hulls of passing ships. Travelers swore they had seen swallows bury themselves in river mud, sleeping beneath the water until winter loosened its grip. But the truth, uncovered through telescopes, satellites, and the quiet precision of modern tracking, is far more astonishing than any legend. These fragile creatures, some no larger than a human hand, cross entire oceans under the cover of night. They chase warmth, food, and safety across thousands of kilometers, guided not by myth, but by instinct and an invisible map written into their blood. Migration, once a mystery, now reveals itself as one of nature's most extraordinary feats. A journey repeated not just across seasons, but across lifetimes. The essence of migration, a law written in instinct. Migration is more than a journey. It is a force, subtle, ancient, and irresistible. that shapes the fate of countless species. For many animals, this movement is etched deep within their blood, a biological command that awakens when the world around them begins to shift. For others, migration is a flexible choice, molded by weather, hunger, physical condition, or the pressures of a landscape that never stays the same. Yet every migrating creature, from the smallest bird to the largest mammal, shares a single truth. They leave behind the familiar, in search of a place where life can continue. Environmental cues act as their compass. Temperature rises and falls. Rain comes later than expected. Rivers shrink into cracked beds. Fresh grass withers into dust. These changes ignite an inner urgency, an instinct that refuses to be ignored. Scientists have found that migratory species possess astonishing sensitivity to the world around them. They read the length of daylight. They detect shifts in Earth's magnetic field. They trace the sun's position or follow the faintest sense carried by wind and soil. Beyond instinct, learning also plays a crucial role. Studies on birds reveal that older, more experienced individuals refine their routes over the years, discovering shortcuts and safer passages. They pass this knowledge to younger generations through collective movement, an almost hive-like intelligence in which each member becomes part of a greater, guiding whole. Migration is not a solitary act. It is a choreography, a shared decision, a survival strategy shaped by millions of years of evolution. It is how life adapts to scarcity, avoids danger, and reaches the fertile lands that lie beyond the horizon. The pulse of the seasons, understanding seasonal migration. Across the African savanna, the rhythm of life rises and falls with the seasons. When the rains arrive, the plains erupt into green. When the skies clear and the dry winds return, the land shrinks into dust. This cycle, predictable yet unforgiving, drives one of nature's most remarkable behaviors: seasonal migration. Seasonal migration follows a simple logic shaped by survival. Animals move in response to shifting climate, the availability of water, and the rise and fall of food sources. These journeys follow established routes, passed down over generations, and repeated year after year, sometimes stretching across thousands of kilometers. Ecologists describe this as a cyclical, predictable movement, a pulse of life synchronized with rain clouds and drought, abundance and scarcity. With each shift in season, the landscape transforms. When rain falls, vegetation flourishes, offering fresh minerals, water, and grazing grounds. When the rains retreat, grasses dry into brittle stalks, and herds withdraw to safer zones. Many return to the very same areas they left months earlier, guided by memory and by environmental cues, almost too subtle for human senses to perceive. But migration does more than sustain the travelers. As herds move across the savanna, they trim grasses, churn soil with their hooves, and scatter organic matter. Their passage acts like a natural engine of renewal, accelerating decomposition, recycling nutrients, and breathing new life into the plains, where these seasonal routes intersect breeding grounds, resting points, river crossings. The savanna transforms into a spectacle of astonishing density. Satellite images have shown hundreds of animals clustered within a single square kilometer, forming patterns that mirror the living heartbeat of the continent. What makes this phenomenon truly extraordinary is the loyalty to the path. Migrating animals rarely improvise. They return to the same resting spots, riverbanks, and feeding grounds with near-perfect precision. Tracking devices have revealed that antelope revisit the exact locations used in previous years, even when the terrain offers no visible landmarks. Season after season, generation after generation, the land writes a memory into the minds of its travelers, and the travelers write their presence back into the land. The Great Migration, the moving heart of the Serengeti. Across more than 30,000 square kilometers of East Africa, a spectacle unfolds that has no true parallel on Earth. The Great Migration of the Serengeti Masai Mara ecosystem. It is a living river of hooves, dust, muscle, and instinct. A perpetual loop, driven by hunger, rain, and survival. The scale of a natural wonder. Each year, Millions of blue wildebeest surge forward in an immense arc across the savanna. Alongside them run hundreds of thousands of zebras and Thompson's gazelles, the great triad of the open plains. Together, they form a caravan that can stretch far beyond the horizon, a force so massive it reshapes the land beneath their feet. The silent pioneers of the plains. Among the striped patterns sweeping across the grasslands, the Grant's zebra often takes the lead, graceful, yet resilient. They are the first to step into new territory, not because they follow the reins blindly, but because they carry precise memories of past journeys, where the grasses grow highest, where predators lurk, and which riverbanks can be crossed safely. Their digestive system allows them to chew through the toughest, driest grasses. With every bite, they clear away the older stalks and reveal tender shoots hidden underneath. These new sprouts become vital fuel for the wildebeests that follow, creating an elegant partnership between species. Zebras prepare the land, and wildebeests consume what emerges. Their long legs, powerful lungs, and efficient cooling system let them travel under brutal sun for hours. Even their iconic stripes serve a purpose, creating microcurrents of air that help regulate body temperature. Beneath these physical gifts lies an equally impressive internal map. Zebras recall slopes that offer safer descents, places where crocodiles wait in silence, and paths worn by generations before them. Their memory becomes the invisible guide of the entire herd. The power of motion, collective survival. As the migration advances, the zebra's boldness becomes a signal. When they step into rivers like the Mara or the Grumeti, without hesitation, other species follow, transforming a single decision into a cascade of movement. In this vast, shifting mass of animals, even small actions ripple outward, preventing chaos and keeping the journey intact. Their social structure strengthens this unity. Each family one dominant male, several females, and their young merges into larger clusters. Soon, thousands of stripes blend into one enormous, breathing organism. Wildebeests gain protection from the zebra's sharp eyesight and keen hearing, while zebras benefit from the wildebeest's heightened sensitivity to scent and movement. Together, they form a living alliance against lions, leopards, and hyenas that shadow the caravan, the cost of the journey. Yet even this magnificent migration is far from safe. Each year, up to 250,000 animals perish, claimed by exhaustion, starvation, predation, or the merciless heat. For the wildebeests, however, survival depends on sheer numbers. Between January and March, when the southern Serengeti bursts with fresh rains, a breathtaking event unfolds. Nearly 500,000 calves are born within a matter of weeks. This explosion of new life overwhelms predators. Lions and leopards may be swift and deadly, but they cannot hunt them all. A newborn's first minutes. In the heart of the Serengeti, a wildebeest calf still cloaked in pale golden fur enters the world. Before the warmth of its mother fades, instinct pushes it upright. Within minutes, its trembling legs steady. Within 15, it is running beside her. But survival begins at once. Lions test the edges of the herd. Wild dogs circle like flowing shadows. A lone hyena watches for weakness, ready to break the lines. The mother defends her newborn with fierce determination, thrusting her horns at would-be attackers, buying her calf the only chance that matters: time. The turning of the herds, a journey written in rain. As the seasons shift, the great herds respond with movements as fluid and predictable as the path of clouds across the sky. Their journey through the Serengeti is not random. It unfolds like a vast, ancient wheel that turns with every change in weather. From the southern plains to the western corridor. By April, long rains drench the western Serengeti, soaking the soil and stirring new growth from the earth. The southern plains, where thousands of calves were born, begin to dry. The wildebeest sense the change before it becomes visible. Guided by scent, memory, and an inner urgency, they move toward the lush corridor in the west, where the ground remains thick with fresh grass. From space, satellite images capture their movement. As branching rivers of dark bodies, millions of animals stretching into vein-like patterns across a green and gold canvas. trials of the rivers, Grumeti and Mara. By July, the migration reaches its most perilous gauntlets, the Grumeti and the Mara rivers. Their waters run deep and strong. Beneath the surface, Nile crocodiles, some stretching more than 5 meters, wait as silent as sculpted stone. When the first hooves break the surface, the river erupts into chaos. Bellows echo across the banks. Water churns into white foam. Crocodile jaws clamp shut with bone-breaking force. Within hours, thousands may be swept away, dragged under, or crushed in the panic. And yet the survivors press on, driven by the same instinct that fills the sky with migrating birds: move or perish. A brief calm in the Masai Mara. Those who endure find temporary refuge in the Masai Mara. Between September and October, the grasslands here, renewed by recent rains, offer a pause in the endless march. The herds rest, rebuild strength, and scatter across the plains like dark embers on a glowing field. But the calm never lasts. The shadows return. Hyenas, patient and calculating, reappear along the edges of the herds. By simply waiting near the riverbanks, they exploit the exhaustion of the travelers. Any wildebeest that hesitates or lags behind risks becoming an easy target. As the sun begins to fall behind the distant hills, their eerie laughter spreads across the Mara, a signal for the clan to regroup. Somewhere in the fading light, a young wildebeest struggles to rise after crossing the river. It trembles, still slick with water. The hyenas close in, each step deliberate. In the Mara, survival is a race measured in heartbeats. Predators of the plains, the silent wars beneath the migration. The Great Migration is not only a journey, it is a battlefield that shifts with every mile. Where millions of hooves thunder across the earth, predators follow like moving shadows, reading every weakness, every moment of hesitation, every opening carved by exhaustion. Hyenas, the strategists of the night. In the Mara, the hyena's laughter is not amusement, it is calculation. Spotted hyenas advance behind the herds with patient precision, conserving energy until the perfect moment. They do not rush, they anticipate. A young or injured wildebeest becomes a flashing signal in the dusk, a single mistake in a sea of bodies. Their hunting strategy is a masterpiece of coordination. The leading group charges first, applying pressure. A second wave cuts off escape routes. Others flank in silence, positioning themselves like pieces on a chessboard. When they strike, it is swift and overwhelming. Jaws capable of exerting 4,500 newtons crush bone with ease, and within moments, the struggle ends. But hyenas are not merely hunters, they are nature's tireless cleaners. After lions and vultures have taken what they can, hyenas consume the rest. Marrow, cartilage, fragments too dense for others to digest. Every bone broken, every scrap absorbed, returns nutrients to the soil, preventing disease and fueling the renewal of the savanna. They are the quiet custodians of balance, keeping the ecosystem free of decay long after the chaos settles. Cheetahs, the lightning of the Serengeti. Where hyenas dominate through endurance and strategy, the cheetah rules through purity of speed. Thompson's gazelles, the delicate, swift Tommies of the plains, live in perpetual tension with this predator. When the large herbivore herds carve corridors of new growth across the Serengeti Masai Mara ecosystem, the gazelles follow, feeding on tender shoots revealed after zebras and wildebeests have passed. But these open spaces also expose them to the fastest hunter alive. A cheetah does not stalk like a lion. It flows, low to the ground, merging with grass and shadow, closing distance until only the final 40 meters remain. Then one moment of stillness, and the chase ignites. The cheetah accelerates to 97 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds, its spine flexing like a coiled spring released. Its tail lashes the air, steering with the precision of an aerial rudder. The gazelle zigzags in frantic bursts, hooves scraping arcs into the earth. But speed has a cost. If the pursuit lasts too long, the cheetah risks collapse. Every hunt is a gamble of seconds. In a cloud of dust, the predator sweeps a paw into the gazelle's flank. The delicate legs buckle, momentum falters, and within heartbeats, the cheetah's jaws close around the throat. The hunt ends as quickly as it began, silent, efficient, breathtaking. The Egua migration, a quieter pilgrimage, while the Serengeti's great migration thunders across the savannah with drama and peril. Another movement unfolds, far from the crowds of cameras and tourists, a migration calmer in tone, yet no less vital. This is the Egua migration, the second largest movement of blue wildebeests on the African continent, where rain awakens the plains. As the first rains seep into the cracked soil of the Egua region, the landscape begins to soften. Tender blades of grass push through the earth, releasing the scent of renewal into the wind. To the wildebeests, this subtle change is a summons, a message, carried not by sound, but by instinct, honed over thousands of years. From the dry boundaries near Angola, more than 45,000 blue wildebeests rise as if drawn by an invisible thread. Smaller herds of plains, zebras, and lechwe antelopes fall into step beside them, forming a measured procession toward the southern plains, a journey without frenzy. Unlike the chaos of the Serengeti river crossings, the Egua migration resembles a pilgrimage, steady, organized, and guided by ancient memory. The herds drift across floodplains, follow the branching paths of the Lubimba River, and move toward seasonal lakes that pulse with life after the rains. The goal is timeless: to reach a place where mothers can give birth safely and young calves can feed on nutrient-rich pastures. There is no desperate scramble here, no stampede against the bite of crocodiles. Instead, the migration flows like a quiet tide, shaped by the rains and the promise of nourishment. The silence of the journey does not diminish its meaning, it deepens it. For the wildebeests of Egua, survival is not a race against predators. It is an embrace of the land's rhythms, a movement guided by hope and the instinct to protect the next generation. The Nile migration, the hidden giant of Africa. Beyond the Serengeti and the Egua plains lies a movement so vast that even the Great Migration bows to its scale. Across the wetlands, grasslands, and shifting floodplains of South Sudan and Ethiopia, another tidal wave of life rises and disappears with the seasons. This is the Nile migration, now recognized as the largest terrestrial migration on the planet. A river of hooves across 100,000 square kilometers as the rains pulse through the region. More than 5 million white-eared cobs sweep across the land like a pale rolling mist. With them travel approximately 350,000 Tiang antelopes, 350,000 Mongala gazelles, and 160,000 boar waterbucks. Together, they form an immense migratory engine, moving through a territory stretching from Badingilo National Park to Ethiopia's Gambela region. The timing of their journey mirrors the heartbeat of the wetlands, January to June for the northward push. Then again, from November into the early months of the next year, a migration without spectacle, but full of purpose. Unlike the Serengeti, this migration is not defined by dramatic river crossings or predator-filled ambushes. Its beauty lies in its harmony. As the herds wander, they disperse seeds, fertilize the soil, and maintain a delicate equilibrium between species. Their movement sustains predators, lions, leopards, and hyenas, who depend on this constant flow of prey to survive. There is no frantic stampede. Instead, the Nile migration breathes life into the ecosystem with every step, a scale confirmed by science. For years, this phenomenon remained poorly understood. Hidden by the remoteness of the landscape and the challenges of conducting research in the region. But in 2023, aerial surveys by African Parks and the University of Wyoming finally revealed its enormity, showing that this migration surpasses even the Serengeti in sheer numbers. It is a reminder that Africa still holds secrets, vast and uncharted, waiting beneath the shimmer of heat and grass, the quiet strength of movement. While lesser known to the world, the Nile migration is a crucial stabilizing force for its entire ecosystem. It replenishes, connects, and balances. And as long as the rains return, and the floodplains breathe, millions will rise and move again. An ancient rhythm flowing beneath the sky. Across changing worlds, the migrations between biomes. Not all migrations follow a fixed calendar or trace the same route year after year. Across Africa, many species travel in ways far more fluid, crossing borders between grasslands, forests, wetlands, and semi-desert landscapes. Their movements respond not to predictable seasons, but to shifting opportunities, sudden shortages, and ancient knowledge passed through generations. These are the biome-crossing migrations, shaped by flexibility and survival. The elephants, navigators of memory. When grass turns brittle and the last water sinks beneath cracked riverbeds, the elephants begin to move. Unlike most animals, their roots are not written solely in instinct. They are carved into memory. At the head of each family walks a matriarch, often more than 40 years old. She remembers hidden springs beneath layers of stone, groves that fruit after the first rains, and the safest paths through lands now marked by human presence. Research from Samburu, Kenya, shows that a single matriarch can recall over 100 water sources, some buried so deep that only elephants know they exist. At night, herds may walk 50 to 80 kilometers to reach these lifelines. With each journey, calves learn the map of survival step by step, turning knowledge into legacy. Elephants reshape the landscape as they move, digging wells in dry riverbeds, opening pathways through dense woodland, and creating natural corridors used later by zebras, antelopes, and countless other species. The African buffalo, masters of collective decision. Buffalo migrations do not stretch across entire nations, yet they form movements rich in complexity. In the wet season, they spread out across flooded grasslands and forests. In the dry months, they retreat to the remaining pockets of water and greenery. What makes their migrations remarkable is how they choose to move. When it is time to travel, adult females rise and point their bodies in the direction they believe the herd should go. These stances act like votes. The path with the most support becomes the herd's route. GPS studies in Kruger National Park show buffalo traveling 3 to 7 kilometers per day, while younger individuals may break away to explore distances up to 95 kilometers in search of better feeding grounds. At times, smaller herds unite to form super herds of 1,000, 2,000 animals, creating a living fortress against lions and other predators. The eland, nomads of opportunity. The largest antelope on Earth, the common eland, does not follow strict routes or seasons. Instead, it walks where the land allows it to thrive. When rains fall, elands seek fresh grasses rich in nutrients for nursing mothers. When the land dries, they drift into open woodlands, granite hills, or thorny scrublands where leaves, dry fruit, and bark hold enough moisture for survival. Males tend to stay within stable feeding grounds, while females with calves roam farther in search of greener patches. Their movements reflect an elegant form of ecological opportunism, adapting to whatever the land offers. The marabou stork, the scavenger that crosses worlds. Towering and solemn, the marabou stork travels wherever food leads it. Floodplains, river deltas, seasonal lakes. When these dry or shift, the marabou takes flight. With a wingspan nearing 3 meters, it rides thermal currents with the ease of a vulture, covering vast distances with almost no effort. And unlike most migratory birds, the marabou moves fluidly between the wild and the urban. When nature cannot provide, city landfills in Nairobi, Lusaka, or Kampala become temporary feeding grounds. Few species shift so seamlessly between ecosystems, a testament to evolutionary adaptation. The lesser flamingo, the pink wanderer of soda lakes. In stark contrast to the marabou's somber presence, the lesser flamingo paints the skies with ribbons of radiant pink. This species moves not in response to predators or seasons, but to the blooming of spirulina, a microscopic algae that thrives in alkaline lakes with extreme pH levels. When spirulina declines, the flamingos depart almost instantly. Their migration can span a few dozen kilometers or stretch across hundreds, often under the cover of night when cooler air eases the journey. They navigate by vision, searching for clues in the water's color jade, turquoise, or deep green, each shade signaling the presence of their vital food source. What seems delicate is, in truth, a highly specialized adaptation crafted by millennia. The quiet migrations movements, hidden in plain sight. Not all migrations erupt in thunderous waves or stir clouds of dust across the savannah. Some unfold silently, almost invisibly subtle shifts in position, brief journeys across modest distances, guided by microclimates and the quiet signals of the earth. These are the dispersed migrations of Africa, movements so understated that an untrained eye might miss them entirely. The dance of small distances. In grasslands, semi-arid plains, and seasonal wetlands, countless species travel only a few kilometers at a time. Their routes change with each rainfall, each patch of moisture, each short-lived burst of tender grass. These movements lack dramatic spectacle, yet they repeat with steady reliability, driven by a hollow filled with lingering water, a fresh flush of green after a single storm, a shaded patch where soil remains cool for days longer than the surrounding land. Such subtle triggers shape these miniature migrations, which play quiet but essential roles in ecosystem balance. The springbok, ghost of the old treks. Today, the springbok roams in flocks that move lightly and with agility across southern Africa. Their migrations are modest, measured in tens or hundreds of kilometers. But history tells a different story. In the 19th century, the trekbokke phenomenon shook the region. Waves of springboks so vast that they turned the horizon into a shimmering blur, their movement raising dust clouds that lingered for hours. Those epic marches have almost vanished. Fences, farms, and expanding towns dismantled the ancient routes, fracturing once great herds into smaller, isolated populations. What remains today are shorter, more flexible shifts, quiet adjustments to rainfall patterns and vegetation. Yet the instinct has not faded. When conditions demand it, springboks still rise and move, drifting across semi-desert plains and savannas, seeking pockets of green. Their mixed feeding strategy, grazing on grasses while browsing on shrubs, allows them to survive where other animals falter. Some endure long months without drinking, drawing moisture directly from the plants they eat. In years of heavy rain or harsh drought, herds may still travel hundreds of kilometers, moving like whispers across the land, predators in the grass. The leopard's silent advantage. Where small migrations occur, predators adapt accordingly. In the Kigala-Gadi Transfrontier Park, a leopard waits near a waterhole. She moves with a stillness that defies the heat, shimmering above the ground. Each step is calculated, each pause deliberate. A springbok lowers its head for just a breath too long. The leopard slips forward, a shadow becoming motion, and the hunt ends in a single, precise strike. Unlike lions or cheetahs, leopards do not rely on the vast movements of massive herds. Instead, they thrive in the subtle, dispersed migrations of medium and small herbivores. Their flexibility, stealth, and astonishing ability to adapt allow them to persist in forests, savannas, rocky slopes, and even at the edges of human towns. They are both participants in and beneficiaries of the quiet migration's predators shaped by silence. These subdued movements, often overlooked, reveal another dimension of Africa's ecological story. They may lack the scale of the Serengeti, but they carry the same purpose: to follow life wherever it emerges, to endure, and to adapt to a land that changes one rainfall at a time. The leopard and the redbuck, a silent duel in the grasslands. As the dispersed migrations weave quietly across the savanna, a different drama unfolds in the shadows. One shaped not by vast herds or thunderous hooves, but by the intimate choreography between predator and prey. Among all the hunters of Africa, none embody silence and adaptability as completely as the leopard. The leopard, a hunter Without boundaries, the leopard thrives where others falter. From the dense rainforests of Central Africa to the open plains of the Serengeti, from Ethiopia's cool highlands to the edges of expanding cities, it endures. Its strength lies not in sheer power, but in its versatility. A male may weigh between 30 and 70 kilograms, a female between 20 and 43, yet their muscles carry a force far beyond their size. They can drag prey more than 3 times their own weight up into tree branches, turning the canopy into a personal storeroom safe from hyenas and lions. Their coat, spotted with rosettes, melts into patterns of shadow and sun. Their patience turns time into a weapon. Their quietness rewrites the rules of the hunt. Leopards do not depend on great herds. Their menu shifts with the landscape. Antelope, monkeys, birds, rodents, porcupines. This adaptability has allowed the species to endure dramatic changes in habitat and climate over nearly 2 million years of evolution. And yet, despite being widespread, leopards are increasingly fragmented. Expanding farmlands and roads carve their territories into pieces, isolating communities and straining a species built to roam. Still, the leopard moves forward, silent, unseen, unbroken. The redbuck, a life bound to the rhythm of water. In contrast to the leopard's fluid existence, the redbuck, or reedbuck, lives in closer relationship with the land's water cycles. A medium-sized antelope weighing 45 to 65 kilograms, it inhabits humid savannas, floodplain margins, and river-edge grasses across West, Central, and East Africa. Its curved half-moon horns, carried only by males, glint subtly in the sun as it grazes among reeds and low prairies. The redbuck does not stage grand migrations. Instead, it conducts measured movements, rising and falling with seasonal shifts. When water withdraws and plains dry, it descends into lower grounds where moisture lingers. When the floods return, it climbs to higher, better drained terrain. The pattern is flexible, but repeating a soft echo of the hydrological rhythm to the untrained eye. These movements seem almost stationary, yet they represent a precise response to changing resources, predators, and terrain. The encounter. Precision meets vigilance. As a reedbuck grazes in the warm light, it senses only the stillness of the late afternoon. Grass sways gently. A breeze stirs. Nothing seems out of place. But in the grass line behind a clump of shrubs, a leopard crouches, breath slow, muscles poised. She advances with a soundlessness that defies belief, each paw placed as though the earth itself cradles her steps. When the distance collapses to just a few meters, she strikes. One bite to the throat is all it takes. The struggle ends quickly, absorbed by the vastness of the plain. This moment, fleeting, quiet, and deadly, captures the hidden pulse of Africa's ecosystems. Here, survival does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Corridors of life, the invisible highways of the savanna. Across Africa's wild landscapes, migration is not merely movement. It is continuity, an unbroken thread that weaves ecosystems together. But this thread depends on something fragile and often unseen. Ecological corridors, the natural passageways that allow animals to move freely between feeding grounds, breeding areas, and seasonal refuges. Without these corridors, migration collapses. And when migration collapses, ecosystems unravel, the lifelines of the continent. These corridors stretch across open plains, woodlands, river valleys, and borderlands. They are not marked on maps, but animals know them by heart. Generations of hooves, paws, and wings have shaped them into biological highways. Through them, species maintain genetic diversity, stable populations, healthy predator-prey dynamics, resilience to droughts, fires, and human expansion. They are the arteries that keep the savanna alive. When roads, fences, or farms cut into these paths, consequences ripple outward. Herds become trapped, predators lose access to prey, and once vast populations splinter into isolated pockets, unable to survive long-term. One of the last great corridors, Kaza, one of the most extraordinary corridor networks on Earth, lies where Angola, Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe meet. This vast region, over 520,000 square kilometers, forms the Kavango-Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area, known as Kaza. Here, elephants, buffalo, antelope, lions, and countless other species move across borders unhindered, following the rhythms of water and fire. In 2024, more than 4 million GPS data points from elephant herds revealed the complexity of these routes. Patterns emerged, showing how elephants navigate past dry riverbeds, burned grasslands, and human settlements, relying on both memory and environmental cues. Kaza links iconic parks such as Chobe, Bwabwata, Kafue, and the Zambezi region, creating a vast open landscape where migrations can still unfold, as they have for millennia. Even lions benefit from this network. Young males, pushed out of their birth prides, follow these natural corridors to establish new territories, find mates, and contribute fresh genetic lines to distant populations. Without such pathways, entire lion communities would face stagnation and decline. When corridors falter, but these lifelines are fraying. Private fencing around the Greater Mara blocks traditional wildebeest routes, forcing herds into narrower passages. Elephant corridors in Tanzania face increasing pressure from expanding farms and settlements, pushing animals into conflict with local communities. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty, altering the reliability of rainy seasons and shifting the timing of migration. Even in Kayezea, an area once considered stable, localized declines in elephant numbers have begun to surface. Tourism, too, leaves its mark. At the Mara River crossings, dense clusters of vehicles create noise and stress that disrupt herd behavior, causing panicked crossings and increased fatalities. Restoring the pathways. Across the continent, conservation efforts now focus on one goal: reconnecting the wild. In critical regions, old fences are being removed. Communities are working with conservation groups to design land use plans that protect corridors while providing sustainable livelihoods. Tourism strategies are being reshaped to reduce crowding and minimize stress on wildlife. Science also plays a key role. Ecological studies, hydrological monitoring, and climate projections help predict when and where corridors are most at risk. The survival of Africa's great migrations does not rest solely on the animals that move, but on the landscapes that allow movement at all. The Rift Valley Flyway, a sky carved by wings, high above the plains, where thermals spiral upward and the air thins into blue. Another migration unfolds, one not written across the grass, but traced across the sky itself. Stretching from the forests of Scandinavia to the deserts of East Africa, the Rift Valley Flyway is one of the world's great aerial highways. Millions of birds follow this narrow corridor each year, guided by wind, heat, instinct, and a map older than civilizations. It is a passage shaped by geology, climate, and the invisible architecture of air. White storks riding the spine of the wind. As summer fades across Europe, white storks gather on rooftops, fields, and church steeples, preparing for a journey that spans thousands of kilometers. Their wings broad, black-tipped, unmistakable catch the rising thermals over the Bosporus, Egypt, and the Nile Valley. They do not cross open seas where thermals vanish. Instead, they follow the contours of the land, riding columns of warm air like ancient elevators into the sky. Some soar as high as 3,300 meters, circling silently before gliding southward with scarcely a wing beat. Modern tracking reveals a truth long suspected. Young storks can follow the flow when conditions are ideal. But the veterans are the masters. They read shifting winds, recognize weakening thermals, and choose the perfect moment to descend or soar. More than 500,000 white storks now follow this route each year, turning the skies above the Rift Valley into a river of white and black wings. Steppe eagles, the late migrants of the open plains. When summer dwindles across the vast grasslands of Kazakhstan, Russia, and Mongolia, the steppe eagle rises into the air. Unlike many raptors, it begins its migration late, following the slow decline of rodent populations, its main prey. This endangered species crosses the Middle East, gliding over the Bosporus and down the Nile, joining the immense stream of life, following the rift. Their flight is a study in precision. They climb on thermal pillars to great heights, then glide for long distances before catching the next rising column. This method conserves energy, allowing them to travel thousands of kilometers without exhausting themselves. But the dangers are mounting. Power lines, wind turbines, poisoning, and shrinking habitats have pushed the species into a steep decline. Some wintering individuals gather at garbage dumps in Saudi Arabia and Oman, where food is plentiful, but deadly risks, electrocution, toxins, collisions lie everywhere. Young steppe eagles drift widely, swayed by winds. Adults hold their course with unwavering discipline. Experience has become their shield. Egyptian vultures, the smallest of Europe's great scavengers. When the Mediterranean heat begins to fade, Egyptian vultures lift themselves into the sky, white bodies, black-tipped wings, sharp yellow faces glowing in the sun. Though the smallest of Europe's vultures, they are tireless travelers. Their journey mirrors the Rift Valley's spine, Bosporus Middle East, the Nile East Africa. They rise on thermal currents, gliding effortlessly over deserts, floodplains, and the long red cliffs of the rift. Some travel 200 to 400 kilometers per day, completing migrations of over 4,000 kilometers in a single season. Yet this journey is fraught with danger. Poorly insulated power lines in Ethiopia and Kenya claim many lives. Expanding cities create new feeding grounds, landfills. But these places, too, hold their silent threats. Still, every spring, the vultures retrace their steps northward, returning to the same cliffs where they once hatched. Their fidelity to the route is absolute, a skybound by instinct. The Rift Valley Flyway is more than a migration route. It is a conduit of life, a corridor linking continents, climates, and generations. Here, the air itself becomes a pathway. Every shift of wind, every rising column of heat, every shadow cast across the land below is part of a vast, ancient conversation between earth and sky. Across this corridor, millions of wings beat in quiet harmony, a testament to resilience, memory, and the astonishing precision of the natural world. The fragile future of migration, a continent at a crossroads. Africa's great migrations are more than movement. They are the circulatory system of the savanna, millions of bodies carrying life across vast distances, sustaining predators, renewing grasslands, enriching the soil, and binding entire ecosystems into a single, breathing organism. Each year, nearly 5 million wildebeests, along with zebras and antelopes, carve pathways through the Serengeti and the Mara. Their hooves till the earth. Their dung fertilizes new growth. Their sheer numbers nourish lions, hyenas, vultures, crocodiles. Their presence fuels economies, supports communities, and inspires travelers from around the world. Migration is abundance. Migration is renewal. Migration is survival. But this ancient rhythm now trembles. When pathways break, so does the system. Across the Greater Mara, new private fences rise barriers that slice directly through routes followed for centuries. Elephants in Tanzania face shrinking corridors, pushing them toward villages and farmlands where conflict becomes inevitable.
Climate change blurs the once reliable boundaries between wet and dry seasons, delaying migrations or altering them entirely.
Even vast networks like the Kavango-Zambezi region, long considered strongholds of connectivity, begin to show signs of strain. Localized declines in elephant populations, shifting fire patterns, and unpredictable rainfall disrupt the choreography of movement. Tourism, too, plays a role. At the Mara River, crowded vehicles and relentless noise cause herds to hesitate or panic, turning crossings into chaotic scrambles where more animals perish. Piece by piece, the pathways fracture, restoring the web of movement. Across Africa, conservationists, scientists, and local communities are working to protect what remains. Old veterinary fences are being dismantled. Collaborative land use plans help maintain animal corridors while ensuring benefits for the people who share these landscapes. Tourism models are being redesigned to reduce pressure on fragile crossing points. Hydrological research, wildlife censuses, and climate forecasting are now integrated to anticipate and respond to ecological disruptions. But safeguarding migration cannot rely on conservationists alone. It requires awareness, cooperation, and a collective understanding that the story of the savannah is written in movement, and movement must remain free. A call written in dust and wind. The migrations of Africa do not roar with engines or blaze with neon lights. They whisper through grasslands, rise on thermal winds, shimmer across salt pans, and thunder across open plains. They carry within them the memory of millennia. If these roots vanish, something far greater than individual species will be lost. An entire system, an ancient, interconnected web of life will begin to fade. But if the corridors remain open, if the pathways remain whole, the great herds will return. The skies will fill with wings. The earth will pulse beneath hooves. And the savannah will continue to breathe. For as long as Africa has seasons, its migrations will endure. As long as we allow them to move.